guys, it's Wyndham, and I'm back with another IMDb's 250 best films of all time. How many have you seen? You know the drill. Anyway, so last time it was The Godfather, and I've been waiting a little while to do The Godfather Part 2, just because the movie is so ridiculously long. It took me a while to really get through it, because I wanted to make sure that I understood the plot. Oh my gosh. So there's two overlapping storylines, alright? The first storyline is a continuation of Michael Corleone, the son of the Corleones, played by Al Pacino, that we met in the first Godfather movie. And the other parallel storyline is the story of Vito, which was the father in the first movie, and this time around it's him, and we're having flashbacks to how he became Vito Corleone in the first film, and he's played by Robert De Niro, which is really cool. But just to kind of help you guys understand, just so I don't go back and forth, I'm going to tell you Vito's storyline first, then I'm going to tell you Michael's. But anyway, so it opens up with Vito living in Italy, in Sicily, and what happens is his dad is killed by this big drug lord. His older brother seeks revenge and is killed. And it starts with this funeral, and they're basically kind of gunned down going to this funeral. It's kind of very bloody, very graphic. And the mom, Vito's mom, goes to this big gang drug lord man in power in Italy and says, "Have mercy on her family, please." And he's like, "No, I need to kill your younger son," even though Vito's 9 at the time. He's like, "I need to kill him because otherwise he's gonna grow up and take revenge on me." The mom sacrifices herself so Vito can get away, and he somehow manages to get himself to America. He escapes. And in America, you kind of see him as a child, growing, developing, and eventually gets to a point where he's living in New York City. And there is this big gang, and it's called the Black Hand. And this guy, the leader of the Black Hand, he does what gangs basically do, where he says, "You guys pay me money because I'm going to protect all of you and get my way and kind of lord over this town." So Vito doesn't like that very much. And Vito and this other guy kind of join forces, and they start committing felonies together. And this other guy gets involved, so they have a trio. Black Hand, leader of the Black Hand, finds out, and he goes to them and he's like, "If I'm gonna let you guys do this in my neighborhood, you owe me part of the cut." And Vito's like, "Watch me try to get out of this," because he's not liking what's going on. So he goes, manipulates the leader of the Black Hand to take less of a share than he originally intended through the power of manipulation, and then eventually he kills him. And in doing so, earns the respect of everyone, and then he kind of becomes the leader because he starts doing favors for people and getting things done. So Vito becomes the leader of the Black Hand, and Vito eventually is able to make it back to Italy, and he secures a meeting with the man that killed his father and his brother. And he ends up killing him, and so he got his revenge. The movie kind of ends. The penultimate scene is Vito's family having a dinner party. Michael is there, and he's telling everyone, he's announcing that he's going to be joining the army. Connie and Carlo meet, which we know is really important with the first movie. And we find out that Michael joining Marine Corps basically goes against his dad's wishes for what he wants him to accomplish. And his dad kind of is in the other room, and everybody gets up to go greet him except for Michael, which kind of helps us understand why they had such an estranged relationship until the very end in the first film, which I just thought was pretty cool. And that's basically the end of Vito's storyline. With Michael's storyline, it begins very similarly to the first film, where there's this big party because it's his son's first communion, and he's dealing with business. And so this dirty senator comes in, and we all know that the family made their money through gambling. And the senator comes in, and the senator's like, "If you're gonna buy all these casinos, you have to pay this much. You have to pay this amount of money." And it's a ridiculous amount of money. And Michael's like, I'm not paying that. And the senator basically is like, then I'm gonna make things really difficult for you. Michael goes, fine, well then you get nothing. And then Michael is also dealing with family problems because Connie is still very much a burden on him, doesn't make emotionally sound decisions, and so Michael kind of has to deal with that. And he's also dealing with business people that are backed by a man named Roth. And Roth is supporting of Michael's move into the gambling industry. And basically a friend of Michael's dad's says, your dad supported Roth, but you need to understand that he never trusted Roth. So then, that night after both of those meetings, someone tries to assassinate him and his wife in their home by shooting up their window, basically. His wife goes, why is the window open? And then it's like, and they basically almost die, but they don't. And this gets Kay, Diane Keaton, this gets her very frustrated because she doesn't want to be in the middle of this type of life. And it makes Michael realize somebody close to me helped with this, because the way that this was, they tried to assassinate me in my home. They were able to get into my home, have my window open. I need to leave for my protection. Michael meets with Roth, basically, after the assassination attempt. And Roth tells him it was Penangeli. Penangeli did this. Then Michael goes to Penangeli and he's like, I know Roth did this. So we're kind of like, you know, who did this? But then there's an assassination attempt on Penangeli, and they say Michael Corleone says hello. So we're kind of going, who does Michael trust? And this part for me has me extremely confused, where I'm like, okay, so who is manipulating who here? You know, who's backing who, and who's in, you know, the corner of manipulation? Now Michael goes to Cuba to go meet with Roth, and you basically find out that there's all of this guerrilla warfare going on. And Roth tells Michael, look, you haven't given me $2 million to confirm our partnership. Now, Michael's brother Fredo brings the money to Cuba, and Michael informs him, I know that it was Roth who tried to kill me. And Fredo's like, oh, I've never met Roth. Ooh. And Michael's like, well, he's gonna try to kill me again. And I have plans for Roth, even though he's getting this big basket of money, and he's like, I know what I'm gonna do with Roth. I have plans for him. Now Michael has the money, but he corners Roth and he's like, who had Penangeli killed? Like who gave the order to have him assassinated? And Roth won't tell him. Roth is just mad about the murder of a man that happened in the previous movie. A murder done by Michael Corleone. So then this big scene kind of happens with some male entertainment where Fredo accidentally lets it slip that he knows both Ola and Roth, both people he claimed he didn't know. And Michael's forced to realize the person that was close to him that betrayed him was his own brother. So he has to figure out how to deal with Fredo. Roth is sent to the hospital because of a heart condition, and they still try to have him killed there, but the person that's trying to kill Roth is killed. But Michael confronts Fredo at a New Year party, and he's like, you broke my heart, I know it was you. And Fredo flees. Now Michael returns home from Cuba and finds out that basically everybody's kind of in hiding everywhere. And then he finds out that Kay, his wife, who he left, has suffered a miscarriage. So it leads to a scene that Michael's being tried with a bunch of crimes associated with the Corleone family. And he basically challenges the jury and the judge, and he's like, I dare you to produce a witness that can implicate me. Because everything that he did was so well orchestrated that there's not really a direct witness that can point him to the crimes themselves because it was so clean. Guess who made a deal with the FBI? Guess who the witness is gonna be? Penangeli. Yep. He didn't die. He survived, and he makes a deal with the FBI, and he says that he's gonna implicate Michael. And during this time, Michael finds out that it's gonna be Penangeli. And Fredo returns, and Fredo meets with Michael, and he says the reason that he betrayed him is because he's jealous, because for all those years, his father passed over him in choosing him to be the head of the family. And during this meeting, Michael basically tells Fredo, you're not my brother, you're nothing, and he disowns him. But Michael promises that nothing's gonna happen to Fredo while his mother is alive. The hearing happens, And Michael brings in Pentangeli's brother all the way from Sicily to intimidate Pentangeli. And so he recants everything that he says, everything that he said to implicate Michael, and he gets away with it. Kay, Michael's wife, notices, and because of this, and she knows he did do those things, and he's a violent man, and he's able to get what he wants, she wants to leave with the children, and Michael's like, "You're not taking my kids away." And Kay basically admits, saying, "It wasn't a miscarriage. I aborted the child because I don't want you to have another son to be involved in this. Like, I refuse to have any more children involved in this business." Michael's mother, Vito's wife, dies. And at the funeral, Michael's still shunning Fredo, but Connie begs him to forgive Fredo. And it seems like he does. And he goes and hugs Fredo, but during that hug, he gives a signal to the bodyguard saying, "I said that as long as my mother was alive, nothing would happen to him. That time is over." Now they're trying to figure out how to deal with Roth. Pentangeli's in prison because he basically lied to the FBI. And Hagen visits Pentangeli in prison and tells him that he should probably take his own life. And the way that he would do it is to slit his wrists in the bathtub, because that way it's considered to not be cowardly and that he'll be accepted in the afterlife. The movie kind of reaches its climax here, and you see Roth be assassinated by someone that has disguised himself as a reporter. Pentangeli indeed kills himself by slitting his wrists in the bathtub, and Fredo is killed while fishing. And all of this kind of leads to Michael sitting next to the lake, just kind of staring out, like not really sure what to do. Not really sure like what to do with his life. He's kind of just like, he's just not really sure what to do with his life. He's just kind of in silent contemplation. Okay, so that plot was extremely complicated. Like, that's the reason I was like, it's because there's so much to remember. Now, this movie, again, was directed by Francis Ford Coppola, which, as I talked about in the previous movie, nothing has really been as successful by him other than his Godfather films. Now, this movie was released in 1974, so again, Francis Ford Coppola, for him, the time where he was king was the 70s because of this. Now we have a return of Al Pacino, we have a return of Diane Keaton, but now we kind of have Robert De Niro as playing Vito in the flashback scenes as we see how Vito becomes head of the Corleone family. Now, as far as Academy Awards go, it was nominated for 11 Academy Awards, and it's the first sequel to win Best Picture, which is a huge deal. Now, this movie, as well as its predecessor, they're super influential in the gangster genre. Now, as far as, casting goes, we all know that Robert De Niro is just amazing. We also know that I really approved of Al Pacino's portrayal of Michael. Again, I completely approve of it. Again, I'm annoyed by Diane Keaton, but her role, I think she did a really good job. She just annoys me in general. Casting, top notch. Scoring, of course, was great. My problem came into the fact that this movie was so long and there was so much happening with little subplots going on that in the end, for me, it just kind of built the environment. It didn't really necessarily have anything to do with the main plot itself, moving it forward. So for me, it was difficult to finish. Like, I had to break it up into several days. And I mean, I'm kind of explaining the plot, and to make sure that I get everything correctly, I'm sitting here and I had to like draw a diagram of like the different characters and what they did and how they influenced everything, just that way I can explain it to someone else, as well as I have to dissect the two overlapping plots of it being a sequel and a prequel at the same time. I have to dissect it and put it into two separate categories. So for me, that takes major points away. Overall, it was just too long, too complex, but at the same time, it was done really well. It sticks with you. There's quotes that you gotta love, and you understand what it did, and you understand how powerful of a movie, especially for the time that it really was. But for me, too long. I like a long movie. I love a long movie, but not one where everybody has Italian names and there's so many characters. I'm like, okay, who are you again? So overall, I'm gonna give this one a 5 out of 10, I think. Just because for me, it didn't cut it as, it wasn't as exciting It was more just sad. Like the whole thing was just sad. It just kind of put you in a really sad mood. Just, you know, it was just sad. Just because you're just watching this man kind of become a tyrant. And while you understand it's necessary and it's brilliant, you're kind of going, it's a disaster. It's like one that you can't look away from. So anyway, for me, I was kind of like, oh my gosh. So, yep, 5 out of 10. And I think that's touching a bit on everything. So, yeah, hopefully I'll have this out by Wednesday. And I don't know what's next on the list. I haven't even, like, watched the next one that's on the list that I need to record. But anyway, guys, sorry this one took so long to come out with. It's a long movie. So for me, it was like having to sit down and be like, okay, let me just like sit and take a minute and breathe over this and contemplate how I'm going to do this. But anyway, looking forward to doing some collaborations in the future. Looking forward to coming out with a bunch of new videos about stuff. I'm excited. And yeah, you guys know how to follow me. I'm getting more subscribers every day, which is kind of crazy and really cool. So anyway, you know what to do. I've got all my social media stuff linked below. And I'll see you guys next time.